All right, everyone. I call the regular scheduled Community Development and Human Services Committee to order for today, Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. I am Jason Winston, chair of the committee. I am joined to my immediate right by Councilmember Jason Dozier, and to my immediate left, Councilmember Mary Norwood, and to her left, Councilmember Matt Westmoreland. This does constitute a quorum. So at this time, I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second? We have a second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Next, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second by Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. That takes us to the public comment section of our agenda. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Oh.
All right, so we do have 3 people signed up for public comment. First, we'll start off with Henry Jordan. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes, and I'll gently remind you when there's 30 seconds left. Ms. Jordan, you have the podium.
Everyone that's here, so help men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself, Ephesians 5th chapter 28 verse. This verse develops the idea introduced in verse 27. That sacrificial love benefits the giver as well as the receiver. I haven't benefited from a relationship with James Griff. The word create the income, so I need to support Jesus' word. I had a dream James cannot help other men be Christ-like husbands because he refused to set the example. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God should take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book, Revelation 22nd chapter 19th verse. Anyone who willfully distorts the message of the book of Revelation shows himself not to be a genuine believer and will not participate in eternal life or the blessings of the New Jerusalem. When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity. But his blood will I require at thine hand. Ezekiel 3rd chapter 18 verse. In the same way, Ezekiel was God's watchman, who was called to warn both the wicked and the righteous. Let us ask for the power to obey Jesus' word. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. Isaiah 33:1. Thee that spoilest and was not spoiled is a reference to the Antichrist and his kingdom. Can you say that Christ did not warn you of the consequences of your deeds? I had a vision. If the enemy shall rule over you, then they will ask me to oppress you. And God said, because they practice oppression. See, the word God said, be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. If he reap to the flesh, he shall of the flesh reap corruption. But if he reap to the Spirit, the word of Christ, he shall reap everlasting life. God's word is a promise. That's when I read the word of God. It's for our protection. It's for his will, for our life. Because he made us. We didn't make ourselves. We're subject to God. That's when I stand here today, because I'm subject to Christ. Because he wants your soul out of hell and in his kingdom. And that's what I want for myself. Thank you. Obey Jesus, Christ-like men and women.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Linda Adams. Is Linda Adams here? Yep. And a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Linda Adams, resident of the Vine City community, 20 plus years. I'm here on behalf of 24-01-195 Diamond Hill. I'm here to give my full support and hope we get the full support from you all for this project. The Morris Brown Stadium has been an eyesore for over 20 years. That area has not been utilized to benefit the community. So I'm hoping that you all will support that Diamond Hill project. It will bring much, much improvement to the Vine City neighborhood, as well as making it available for not only the students, but other legacy residents that want to come back there to live. And everything that they're offering us will benefit us 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Eunice Glover. Ms. Glover, are you here for public comment or for your appointment? Okay, so we're not there yet, so we'll come back to you. Next, we have Leonard Watkins. You have 3 minutes.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Leonard Watkins, the Vice Chair of NPUL, coming in support of the Diamond Hill project. I just want to give one sentence: 40% in perpetuity. Say it again, 40% in perpetuity. If for no other reason you should grant this project, they're offering 40% housing, affordable housing in perpetuity. Never in the history of the city have you heard those numbers. So if they get up to 1,200 units and they give us 40%, we're looking at 450 units of affordable housing forever. Not 15 years, not 10 to go back to market rates, forever. You will then have a permanent place for blue-collar workers, teachers, firefighters, MARTA workers to come and stay, not to mention grad students. This will be a transformative project, and it's a transformative project in one of the most prestigious academic areas in the city, in the country. We deserve this transformation. It's a transformative project. Again, I'm just gonna say it shouldn't even be an argument. 40% in perpetuity. No one else has ever come close to offering that. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Colette Haywood.
Let's see, in a large sense, I think my husband stole my thunder because the 40% perpetuity, I mean, that does make a big difference. It's actually a game changer for that corridor. And there are so many issues to touch on when it comes to the Diamond Hill project and what it will do. I mean, it will basically give the Atlanta University Center the ability to expand their institutions in ways that Georgia Tech and Emory does. And quite honestly, I have concerns about the difficulty that they have had going through this process. 2 or 3 minutes is not a lot of time to talk in committee, and I think it's unfortunate that we waited until this time to have these discussions. I actually work for the Partnership for Southern Equity, and we had a community meeting where everyone was invited. And moving forward, I would encourage everyone to attend these community meetings so that we could unpack projects of this magnitude in a way that's fair to community. But that being said, I do believe that with the Diamond Hill project, they've gone above and beyond their due diligence in terms of community outreach. And as a Miss Morris Brown, I don't think that that stadium means any more to anybody than it does to me. However, I'm not attached to the stadium. I'm attached to the mission of the schools, and that is to educate the students. And this project allows that to happen. This project, we talk about it being transformational, and it is, because it will impact generations of students to become their commitment to the community benefit agreement and all that it means in terms of green infrastructure. And if you all know anything about the Partnership for Southern Equity, that is one of our goals, is to make sure that green infrastructure happens, specifically on the west side. And in the 10 years that I have been involved, there has been no other developer that has addressed the issue of our heat index and the energy burden that our community experiences. Personally, my power bill is on average, what would you say, baby, about $400? Somewhere between $300 and $400 a month. This is the first project that's even taken that into consideration. They have also worked with so many of our community organizations and institutions. So my time is up.
Thank you. And thank everyone who signed up for public comment today. And colleagues, I just wanted to let everyone know, just because of the time change today, ask for your patience. We had several people that were here for appointments that will be trickling in throughout the meeting. Also, I don't know if Catherine Vassal's here yet, but we do have one presentation. I think we may end up taking that presentation last today. So with that being said, I'd like to move to item G on the agenda, which we have a public hearing item, which is 24-0-1195. So I'd like to open the public hearing. So I make a motion to open the public hearing for the item. And we have a second by Councilmember Dozier. We've also been joined by Councilmember Byron
Vote is
Amos.
open. You can now. The vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays.
Good afternoon.
Yes,
Ms.
good
Lavendier.
afternoon. Yes, thank you.
1 second, I'll
Sorry,
read
gotta
this
sound the
caption
caption
in.
first. Yep.
It's 24-0-1195, CDP 2410, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 0 Griffin Street Northwest, 0 Magnolia Street Northwest, 0 Road Street Northwest, 0 Sunset Avenue Northwest rear, 0 Vine Street Northwest, 41 Griffin Street Northwest, 50 Sunset Avenue Northwest, 569 and 595 and 643 ML King Drive, Northwest 582, 587, 594, and 601 University Place Northwest from the Office Institutional Land Use Designation, and 82 Sunset Avenue Northwest from the Low Density Residential Land Use Designation, and 641 and 657 Road Street Northwest from the Single Family Residential Land Use Designation to the Mixed Use Medium Density Land Use Designation and for other purposes.
Yes, thank you. Jessica Almander with the Office of Zoning and Development in the Department of City Planning. And I wanted to mention that we sent a substitute. There are 2 parcels that were included by mistake in this land use amendment. So this land use amendment is being done in conjunction with the rezoning of the parcels. It's Z2376, and they're being rezoned to SPI 19 sub-area 3, which is a Vine City Special Public Interest District, sub-area 3. These parcels are in the Vine City neighborhood along Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, and they were included in the West Side Land Use Framework Plan that was adopted in 2017. And that analysis identified several of these parcels as being suitable or in poor conditions that would be suitable for demolition. But the vision for the Vine City neighborhood is to create a diverse, sustainable, multi-generational community with high-quality mixed-income housing with retail and a walkable green space. And some of the objectives are to ensure that there's a diversity of housing and improve the affordability and attract a mix of income residents, to strengthen the retail and goods that are available, and to maintain the faith-based and academic institution in the neighborhood as anchors. So the plan recommends several land use amendments, and along MLK, it recommends the mixed-use land use category. And we made a lot of land use amendments when the plan was adopted, but for this corridor, those land use amendments weren't made. So changing the land use of these parcels from office institution to the mixed-use medium density is consistent with the recommendations of the land use framework plan. And then it will allow a variety of housing options and a mix of land uses to be developed in these parcels. And it's also consistent with the policy to have high density along major corridors in the city and to provide diverse and affordable housing. So staff recommends approval of the land use designation, and this was before NPUL. And at their April meeting, they recommended adoption or approval of these land use amendments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I open up, colleagues, I forgot to mention that we have been joined by Council President Doug Shipman as well. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay. Well, do we have anyone for public comment on this? Sure. Yes. Councilmember Byron Amos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Which parcels is taken out now?
Yeah, so the Herndon home was removed, and also the YMCA.
Yeah, definitely by mistake.
Yeah, so somehow, when I got those included, when I got the list, they were included, and then we just submitted that change. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I thought I was when I saw that, I was like, that's interesting that those are there. But anyway, so we removed them. Thanks.
Get your mic on. Sorry.
In the packet that the committee members have in front of them, 587 University Place has been removed and 569 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive has been removed. There's also a new map for you and a list of the properties that are now included. So that was Herndon Home and YMCA administrative offices has been removed.
I'll turn it over to Councilmember Norwood.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say, can we please invite the people who came and signed one form to speak during public comment, since this is a public hearing, to allow them to speak before it's closed out?
Yes. So I know we had a few people that did speak to this item, but we are in a public comment section again for this specific item. So if there's anyone.
Vice Chair of NPUL and his wife.
Mm-hmm. You feel good about your, okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, come on. And in this section, you'll have up to 3 minutes as well.
Okay. Throughout this process, I've heard a lot about the West Side Framework Plan as it relates to Vine City. And let me tell the committee about that plan or the process that we went through. If you remember, it was drafted 2 times. The first time, nobody liked the plan that DeRue came up with, so we went through the process again. And there was a committee in Vine City that consisted of 4 individuals, myself being one of them. And I'll be honest with y'all. At the time that we developed that plan, I didn't understand zoning to the level that I do now. I had no idea that I was down zoning that corridor and the impact that it would have on development and affordable housing in our neighborhood. And the funny thing is, we were warned not to do it and didn't trust the people who were telling us not to do it. And the reason why I think that that's important to note is because the way it's zoned, the zoning stands currently, it makes affordability really unattainable. We have this idea that we should live this 1950s type of life where everybody has a yard and a white picket fence, and it's just not sustainable for the salaries that we have in the city of Atlanta. I just purchased a home in Vine City, and on average, homes now are at, let's see, it was $375. It's been, the appraisal has gone up to the 400s, which has doubled my note until the homestead exemption kicks in. So we talk about affordable, but we really need to look at the numbers. and start educating people before we ask them to make the decisions that they're making. And okay, here's my shameless plug. That's why I work for the Partnership for Southern Equity, and we have a program that actually the city is sponsoring called Development Watch. We're conducting one of your NPU universities to educate residents like myself about the decisions that they're making, so that when you make decisions, it's not based on personality, but it's based on facts and not alternative facts. 1 + 1 will always equal 2. It will never equal 5. It will never equal 6. It only equals 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak to this item? All right, seeing none, so I'll make a motion to exit the public hearing, or to close it. Thank you. We had a second by Councilmember Dozier. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to bring forth the substitute. Second by Dozier, if you can please open the vote.
And the vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve as substituted. Second by Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. That takes us to the communication section of our agenda. We do have several appointees that are here today. Would like to try to go ahead and get those up and bring those people up so we can get them out of here.
Item number 2 is 24C 5074, communication from Brian Davis, Chairman, Central Atlanta Progress, nominating Mr. A.J. Robinson to serve as a member of the commission to determine an appropriate manner in which to honor Mayor Shirley Clark Franklin.
Ms. Robinson, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on this
How
commission?
long have I got? Like 30 minutes?
No.
A.J. Robinson, Central Atlanta Progress in the Atlanta Downtown Improvement District. Good afternoon. It would be an honor and privilege to serve on this commission. I've known former Mayor Franklin for most of her career, most of my career, worked on her with her many, many times over the years in her administration, post-administration, pre-administration. Everyone, I think, recognizes the value she's been to our community. So, and I do too, and it would be, again, an honor to be part of this commission.
Thank you. Motion to approve by Councilmember Dozier, second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Item number 3 is 24C 5075, a communication from Pierre Gaither, Executive Director, Atlanta Board of Education, submitting the appointment of Ms. Cynthia Briscoe Brown to serve as a member of the Atlanta Beltline Affordable Housing Advisory Board. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Is she here today?
So Ms. Briscoe Brown is not in attendance, so I'll make a motion to hold.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dozier. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. 4 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 4 is 24C 5076, a communication from Pierre Gaither, Executive Director, Atlanta Board of Education, submitting the appointment of Dr. Ken Zeff to serve as a member of the Atlanta Beltline Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. If he's not here, he said he would be here possibly after the meeting started.
Okay, yeah, we'll give him time out.
Okay.
He had a meeting across the street.
Moving on to number 5, 24C 5077, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Mr. Malcolm Benson to serve as a member of the Municipal Market Company Board of Directors. This appointment is for a term of 2 years.
Benson, how you doing?
Doing, sir?
Good. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on this board?
Yes, sir. Malcolm Benson, proud member of your district. Been over there for almost 18 years. For the last 8 years, I've run a nonprofit urban farm where I teach kids in the community about sustainability, healthy eating, and about food deserts. So this the opportunity I would love to serve on this board for the municipal market. In the past, I've also done I've run for the last 20 years digital marketing company that gets small business, organization, nonprofits exposure and connecting them with different projects and personnel. So I think this would be a great opportunity. I love where it's situated. I've been going there and getting chow there for the last 10 years. So I'm just looking forward for this opportunity to expand that and having that plug of a food desert in the city.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Councilmember Dozier. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, thank you, Mr. Benson. Appreciate your willingness to serve.
Item number 6 is 24C 5078, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Mr. Eric Wilder to serve as a member of the Chattahoochee Brick Company Memorial Green Space and Park Board.
Mr. Wilder, good to see you again. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on this board.
Morning, council members. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, afternoon.
Morning somewhere.
My name is Eric Wilder. I run the ATL Care Project. You guys heard this about 2 weeks ago when I was here, but the ATL Care Project is something I do to interview folks in community, specifically in Atlanta, that are trying to build the betterment of society. I mean, just Mr. Benson, hopefully will be available afterwards. Like everywhere I go, there's folks that are trying to do things to take care, to think about wellness in Atlanta, and those are the people I want to talk to. Some of the questions that drive my work at ATL Care are, how are Atlantans learning to care for one another in a community? Where are safety and equity and repair being practiced in Atlanta? How does grassroots development lead to systemic change? How can shedding light on the past help us imagine a better future? The Chattahoochee Brick Memorial Green Space and Park intersects with all of these essential questions. From Donna Stevens and her coalition building work to protect the site from further development, to this city's willingness to acquire the land, and then for the board that has been around for about a year and the work it's doing to envision a community space that centers the neighborhood residents while also befittingly remembering the horrors of racial terror that James English and his company perpetrated there. This is an incredible opportunity for Atlanta to address our painful past with remembrance and with repair. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve in this way. Thank you for having me today, and thank you for supporting this work.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Got a motion to approve by Councilmember Dozier, second by Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. 4 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Wilder, and congratulations.
Item number 7, 24C 5079, a communication from Neighborhood Planning Unit I, appointing Ms. Eunice Glover to serve as a member of the commission to determine an appropriate manner in which to honor Mayor Shirley Clark Franklin.
Afternoon, Ms. Glover. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on this board?
Thank you very much. I am currently the chair of the Neighborhood Planning Unit. And what drives us is love of community, dignity, respect, professionalism, and commitment. And that includes understanding the history and honoring those wonderful people who have made a difference in our community. And that is the reason I would love to serve on this commission. The history, honoring people, and loving the community, and working to improve the quality of life for everyone, partnering with the city, our elected officials, the NPUs, just everybody to lift up our people.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions or comments from my colleagues?
Approval.
Got a motion to approve by Councilmember Norwood, second by Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you and congratulations.
And there are 2 more in the held section. Item number 51, 24C 5062, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Ms. Kanata Herring to serve as a member of the Chattahoochee Brick Company Memorial Green Space and Park Board.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Kanata Herring. I am a native of Atlanta. I went to Clark Atlanta University, undergrad and grad. I've been a resident of District 1 actually for 19 years, so Grant Park. Super excited the Beltline over there is finally getting fully developed. I have a passion for the city of Atlanta, just because I've been growing up here and gone to school here, and always looking for opportunities to serve the community. I've served on the Atlanta Commission on Women as an appointee of then City Council President Cesar Mitchell. I've served on boards for nonprofit organizations within the city, and also a former member of 100 Black Women of Atlanta. So always looking to participate and be a contributor to the community. This particular board was of interest to me. One, the horrific history of the area, but then how can we take our past and really move forward and do something really great with that space for the community. So I'm excited to serve and for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? A motion to approve by Councilmember Dozier, second by Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you and congratulations.
Item number 52, 24C 5064, communication from Council President Doug Shipman appointing Ms. Ingrid Saunders Jones to serve as a member of the commission to determine an appropriate manner in which to honor Mayor Shirley Clark Franklin.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on this commission?
Well, I am retired from the Coca-Cola Company, but I do want to say that my first life was here at City Hall. I was selected as an Atlanta Fellow under Mayor Maynard Jackson in partnership with Central Atlanta Progress. And it is while I was an Atlanta Fellow that I was assigned to the City Council. And that's when I met Shirley Franklin, who began working for the mayor. And following my fellowship, I was the legislative analyst to the City Council President. Thank you, Doug. It wasn't you, but thank you for nominating me. And following that tenure, I went to work for Maynard Jackson as his executive assistant before I went to the Coca-Cola Company. And so I have known and worked with Shirley Franklin in all her iterations. And I think there is no one more worthy of some of the most special things that she has done, not only as the head of the Bureau of Cultural Affairs, the chief administrative officer for mayors, the deputy during the Olympics, and being mayor. And I think the thing that right now just warms my heart is the way she has devoted her attention with Councilwoman Andrea Boone to Mays High School. So she is very worthy of being honored, and I am honored to have been asked to figure out what is best to do that.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to approve by Councilman Westmoreland. Sure, Council President.
Thank you. I just want to say that no offense to AJ or anybody else, but Ingrid Saunders Jones is the best nominee for this committee. There's no doubt about that. She and former Mayor Franklin have shaped the city in so many ways that I think it's incredibly appropriate that you would be on this group, and I appreciate your service.
Thank you. And we had a motion to approve by Councilman Westmoreland, a second by Dozier. If you could open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. Congratulations to everyone who came today and was nominated for a board or commission. We appreciate your continued service to the city of Atlanta. So, Mr. Evans, so at this time, I think I'm not seeing Ms. Vassell here yet, so we could probably go ahead and go to our consent agenda item.
Sure. You don't see Mr. Zeff yet either?
No.
Okay. Then number 8 is 24-0-1293, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into memoranda of agreement with East Atlanta Business Association, Little Five Points Business Association, West End Merchants Coalition, Virginia Highland District Association, and Sweet Auburn Works to support and encourage participation in the Atlanta Main Street program for the purpose of providing funding in an amount not to exceed $12,000.00 each to East Atlanta Business Association, Little Five Points Business Association, West End Merchants Coalition, Virginia Highlands District Association, and Sweet Auburn Works, and to authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to transfer funds to East Atlanta Business Association, Little Five Points Business Association, West End Merchants Coalition, Virginia Highland District Association, and Sweet Auburn Works in an amount not to exceed $12,000.00 to be paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. So then that brings us to Section J, ordinances for second reading. Would the committee like to take items number 9 through 14 as a block?
All right, seeing no objections, please proceed.
Item number 9 is 24-01254, CDP 2406, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 934 and 972 Avon Avenue Southwest and 1244 Higgins Street Southwest from the industrial land use designation to the mixed-use high-density land use designation and for other purposes. Item number 10 is 24-01255, CDP 2407, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1568, 1572, 1574, and 1594 Evans Drive Southwest and 1130, 1594 Hood Drive Southwest from the industrial land use designation, 1616 and 1620 Evans Drive Southwest from the low-density commercial land use designation, and 1559, 1569, 1573, 1575, 1579, 1585, 1589, 1595, 1599, 1603, 1609, 1615, 1619, and 1623 Langston Avenue Southwest and 1594 Evans Drive Southwest from the single-family residential land use designation to the low-density residential land use designation and for other purposes. Item number 11 is 24-01256, CDP 2408, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1051 Moreland Drive Southeast and 1721 Woodland Avenue Southeast from the single-family residential land use designation to the low-density residential land use designation and for other purposes. Item number 12, 24-01257, CDP 2409, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 2194 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive Southwest from the single-family residential land use designation to the medium-density residential land use designation and for other purposes. Item number 13, 24-01258, CDP 2412, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property at 1109 and 1113 Moreland Drive Southeast from the single-family residential land use designation to the medium-density residential land use designation and for other purposes. And finally, item number 14, 24-01259, CDP 2413, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property at 666 Smith Street Southwest from the single-family residential land use designation to the mixed-use low-density land use designation and for other purposes.
Thank you.
Questions to hold these.
We got a motion to hold by Councilmember Westmoreland. Second by Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. 4 yeas and 0 nays.
And before we proceed, I'd like to go back to item number 4. Dr. Zeff is in attendance, so we can go ahead and take that communication. You can come to the podium.
Item number 4 is 24C 5076, a communication from Pierre Gaither, Executive Director, Atlanta Board of Education, submitting the appointment for Dr. Ken Zeff to serve as a member of the Atlanta Beltline Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee. This appointment is for a term of 2 years.
Thank you, Dr. Zeff. Thank you for coming, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on this committee?
I appreciate the opportunity to be with you all, Council President Shipman, council members. My name is Ken Zeff. I currently serve as a District 3 representative on the Atlanta Board of Education. I'm honored to stand before you as a candidate for the Beltline Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee. I'm here as a community representative, a former superintendent of Fulton County Schools, and perhaps most importantly, the parent of 3 children in Atlanta Public Schools. Our family moved to Atlanta from Los Angeles about 12 years ago, and we've seen the Beltline grow from a mere design on a page to a central feature of our community that we take advantage of weekly, if not daily. I believe APS as a key investor in the Beltline via the TAD, because APS understands the importance of inclusive and sustainable development for our families and for future generations. If we get the Beltline right, more kids will have safe passage to schools, there will be less transient because they will have access to affordable housing, and they will live in vibrant communities that are interconnected and prosperous. If the Beltline fulfills its promise, APS students will thrive. I'm eager to support your vision to make the Beltline a beacon of progress, unity, and opportunity for all. Thank you for the chance to be a part of this important work.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays.
Congratulations. Thank you. Appreciate it. Quick work.
Thank you all for your time.
All right. So we'll go back to item number 15.
Item number 15 is 24-01261, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee amending the city's 2020 through 2024 consolidated plan and the 2023 annual action plan budget for the purpose of reprogramming home investment partnership program funds in an amount not to exceed $300,000.00, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Grants and Community Development to enter into service agreements with Oaks ATL Community Development, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $200,000.00, and with Radiant Development Partners in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00 for the purpose of executing contractual agreements for the projects that are assigned to the Department of Grants and Community Development and for other purposes.
Commissioner Lunning, can you tell us a bit about this item?
Absolutely. Good afternoon. This legislation just permits us to reprogram funds so that we can pay. If you'll recall, I've shared in previous updates that we have funds and we have expenditure deadlines. And so this allows us to meet an expenditure deadline by shifting funds that are still applicable to the particular services being provided.
Questions or comments from our companies? We have a motion to approve by Westmoreland, second by Dozier. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would the committee like to take item number 16 and 18 as a block?
Yes, do we have someone from Parks and Recs to speak to that one, those two items? Not seeing anyone, so maybe we come back and we go 17.
Items number 23 and 26, Commissioner Lannan can speak to.
Okay.
Item number, and those can be taken as a block. Item number 26 is 24-01283, ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond, amending the FY 2024 intergovernmental grant fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations at an amount not to exceed $247,104.00, increasing the budget amount authorized by the Department of Housing and Urban Development for the City of Atlanta's Section 8 Moderate Rehabilitation Program for the Housing Assistance Payment Contracts for Puffin Real Estate, LLC, and for other purposes. And then back to item 23, it's 24-01274, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston to ratify services rendered by Puffin Real Estate, LLC, in connection with a housing assistance payment contract with Puffin beginning June 1, 2024, through execution of the new HAP contract with Puffin, and to authorize the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Grants and Community Development to enter into a HAP contract with Puffin in an amount not to exceed $247,104.00 for the purpose of providing rental subsidies at the Washington Street Apartments in order to house 16 low-income families under the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Section 8 Moderate Rehabilitation Program, all contracted work to be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes. There is a substitute for both of these items in your packet. The substitute just changes the account string information that's contained at the bottom.
Got a motion From Dozier to bring forth the substitute, I'll second. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. 4 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, Commissioner Lundy.
Yes, sir. These particular pieces of legislation allow us to pay the new owner of the property. This is our housing assistance program for Section 8, and we certainly don't want to jeopardize anyone being evicted for failure to pay.
Motion to approve on substituted by Councilmember Westmoreland. I'll second. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 4 yeas, 0 nays. Let's see.
Thank you.
Thank you. Think that we could do item number 22.
We can, and there's a substitute in your packet if you'd like to move the substitute forward.
I'll make a motion to bring forth the substitute. Second by Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
That substitute is changing account strings also. The vote is open. Councilmember Norwood. The vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays. Let me find the caption. Okay. It's 24-0-1273, an ordinance by Jason H. Winston, as substituted by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the Atlanta Department of Labor and Employment Services FY24 budget to add to anticipations and appropriations Summer Jobs Connect implementation grant award funding from the City Foundation and the CFE fund in an amount not to exceed $20,000 for the purposes of launching and supporting the full-scale implementation of a banking integration program in support of the city's Summer Youth Employment Program. All award funds shall be charged to and paid from the account listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you. Can you tell us your name and a little bit about this legislative item?
Good afternoon, Serena Walker from the Atlanta Department of Labor and Employment Services. So this is a grant that's provided by cities for financial empowerment. And it's a program that will provide contractual services and negotiations with banking institutions that will allow youth participants who are unbanked or underbanked, people who don't have banking accounts or established relationships with financial institutions, to open said accounts. And these will be non-custodial accounts, and there will be no overdraft fees and all of the bells and whistles that make for really good intro relationships with youth and to get them started. And they can open these accounts with $25, which will be covered as a part of their first paycheck from the Summer Youth Program.
Awesome. We've been joined by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari. Do we have any questions or comments from my colleagues? A motion to approve by Westmoreland, second by Dozier. If you can open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. And Mr. Evans,
we'll make it.
Deputy Commissioner Voss is here.
That vote will reflect 5 yeas. Okay, would the committee like to take number 16 and 18 together?
Please proceed.
Number 16 is 24-0-1262, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Garden Hills Pool and Park Association, Inc. for the purpose of operating and managing the Garden Hills Pool, related pool facilities, Garden Hills Community Center, and the playfield for a term of 5 years commencing May 1st, 2024 and ending on April 31st, 2029, waiving the competitive procurement provisions contained in Chapter 2, Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City Code of Ordinances and for other purposes. And number 18 is 24-0-1264, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a new memorandum of understanding between the City of Atlanta and Chastain Park Athletic Club for the purpose of managing and operating the Chastain Park swimming and pool grounds with an effective date of September 15, 2023 through September 14, 2028, to waive all ordinances and resolutions in conflict herewith, to permit the entering into of the MOU, to ratify all actions taken by or on behalf of the city since the date of expiration of the MOU and for other purposes.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Norwood, second by Councilmember Dozier. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 4 yeas and 0 nays. Okay, item number 17, 24-0-1263, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to waive Article 10 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the City of Atlanta and LEAD, Inc. with respect to the implementation of various programming located at Center Hill Park for a term of 5 years with 1 5-year renewal option and for other purposes.
Thank you. Deputy Commissioner Voss.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And first, let me apologize. Thanks for rearranging your schedule. I think we had the big bulk of your agenda here in the middle, so thank you for that. This ordinance is an opportunity for us to enter into an agreement with LEAD, which stands for Launch, Expose, Advise, and Direct. It's a Georgia nonprofit. It's run by CJ and Kelly Stewart. They are known quantities within the city. We actually had an agreement with them years ago, and they kind of went their ways, and they've come back to work in Center Hill. They offer programming for youth using baseball and actually women's tennis as well, to try to increase participation, to try to provide academic support, emotional support, social support with youth in our community. All of the programming that we're using here is free to the public, and they're actually maintaining the fields and making improvements while they go. So we're looking forward to enter this agreement and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Yeah, one quick question from me. Is this something that we can try to get the word out to kids all over the city?
Absolutely. I think they're looking forward. They're actually have already started some programming there, but with this agreement, they'll be able to go full-fledged. Center Hill offers restrooms. It has parking. It's a great park for them, so I think it'll be able to draw from across the city.
Okay. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, got a motion to approve by Councilmember Dozier. I'll second. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Right? Texas number 19, 24-0-1265, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into a First Amendment to the amended and restated Atlanta Beltline Corridor Lease Agreement between the City of Atlanta and the Atlanta Development Authority, DBA Invest Atlanta Beltline, to exclude from the leased premises certain additional portions of the Atlanta Beltline to be dedicated to the Beltline Marketplace program being implemented and administered by the Atlanta Beltline, Inc. and for other purposes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of council. This is an ordinance that we actually introduced about 2 years ago. It's called the Beltline Marketplace program. We have a corridor lease for the entire Beltline with ABI. But they have introduced this program, which is meant to encourage entrepreneurial efforts, especially in areas where the cost of doing business in some of these areas has just grown exorbitantly. And so through the Beltline Marketplace program, they have one site currently at Freedom Parkway, and they have another one on Aileen. This would increase the number to 4. And so the 2 other sites are at East Side Trail at Irwin Street and the South Side Trail at McDaniel Street, which is basically Pittsburgh Yards. The program has already had a number of applicants, and it's been highly successful as a pilot, and so they're looking forward to continue this. We take it out of the lease. That allows Beltline full control of those sites to allow for the placement of basically container pods to run the business, and I'm sure they can give you more information, but from all accounts, it's been a great program so far.
Okay, and we have been joined by Councilmember Andrea Boone. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Being a member of the Atlanta Beltline Inc. board, I mean, this is a tremendous program that gives a lot of small business an opportunity to be on the Beltline and have, pretty prime locations around the Beltline to be able to do business. So definitely in support of this. I'll make a motion to approve. I have a second by Councilmember Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. 6 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 20, 24-0-1266, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on or the chief procurement officer or their designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to acquire from the Conservation Fund approximately 0.7444 acres of real property comprising a portion of the property located at 1 Emma Lane, Atlanta, Georgia, as more fully depicted on Exhibit A hereto for the development as additional park green space adjacent to the Blue Huron Nature Preserve of the City Council District 7, authorizing the mayor or his designee or the chief procurement officer or their designee on behalf of the city to execute all documents necessary to acquire the said property, authorizing acquisition, due diligence, closing costs, signage, demolition, site stabilization, and other site development costs in an amount not to exceed $38,842.00. All funds will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein, waiving Chapter 2, Article 10, Division 14, Section 2-1541D of the Procurement Real Estate Code of the City Code of Ordinances, Article 10, and for other purposes.
Deputy Commissioner Voss.
Mr. Chair, this is a very small but important piece of property at Blue Heron. It makes a connection with the neighborhood that otherwise would not exist. Blue Heron has become just a wonderful, it's 30 acres of natural trails, waterfalls, and this would allow that neighborhood to that side to have access to the park. So this was actually funded in part, in half, by Councilmember Shook, who's designated funding, and the other part is coming from the Parks Department. So we are looking forward to closing this and allowing public access to this part of Blue Heron.
Any court got a motion to approve by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed at 6 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 21, 240-1267, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services authorizing the mayor on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation to accept a reimbursement grant from the Georgia Recreation and Parks Association in an amount not to exceed $125,000.00 in accordance with Section 2-910 of the Atlanta Code, and authorizing an amendment to the fiscal year 2024 intergovernmental grant fund budget to anticipate and appropriate, and authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Georgia Recreation and Park Association and for other purposes.
I promise I'll sit down after this one.
Sure.
This is it. This is my last one. But this is a grant we get through the Georgia Recreation and Parks Association. We've received it multiple opportunities. The timing couldn't be better. We actually today are training Camp Best Friends staff for our Camp Best Friends, which starts next Monday. This allows us up to $125,000 worth of camp supplies that we have to use through July, which works out perfectly for our schedule. We have over 2,000 children registered starting on Monday. We have the whole litany of camp trips, bus trips. We have meal programs, and we opened all 12 pools on Saturday. So we're very proud of that, and so we're looking very forward to utilizing this grant to help Camp Best Friends this year.
Thank you.
Just
Councilmember Boone.
quick question, Deputy Commissioner. Thank you for being here. Could you please have someone from your office email me the schedule for free swim for the natatoriums?
I haven't. I wish I brought it with me, but I haven't. I'll get it to you as soon as I get
back. We want to make sure that the kids in Adamsville and the Roselle Fan, that they also, the indoor pools, make sure that they get to swim as well. Thank you so much.
I do believe it's actually posted on the website now, but I'm going to send it to you directly.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Sorry, just reminded me to piggyback off this real quick. If we can make sure that Candler Park pools are also updated and added to all the websites. They were not prior. So if we can make sure that they were added to the graphics, that'd be great as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll just add, I know several pools got a refresh, and I heard that opening weekend was pretty successful.
It was. I think we had over 5,000 visits for the first weekend. And the weather was, a little stormy yesterday, but still 5,000 visits for our pools is a good number. So.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we got a motion approved by Dozier, second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed, 6 yeas and 0 nays. Takes us to item number 24, 240-1277, an ordinance by Councilmember Mary Norwood authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to enter into a First Amendment to ground lease between the city and the Georgia Building Authority to extend the term of such ground lease for a period of 20 years through December 31st, 2069 and for other purposes.
Councilmember Norwood.
I'd like to make a motion to hold this legislation for one cycle.
Got a motion to hold by Councilmember Norwood, second by Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 25, 240-1278, an ordinance by Marcy Collier Overstreet to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to transfer up to $6 million and 0 cents to the Atlanta Development Authority, DBA Invest Atlanta, in order to fund the Invest Atlanta Grocery and Fresh Food Providers Initiative pursuant to that intergovernmental agreement for economic development services between the City of Atlanta and Invest Atlanta for the public purpose of promoting the development of high-quality grocery and fresh food providers and related efforts to increase access to fresh food in low-access neighborhoods in Atlanta, priority areas of the city, and other targeted areas of the city. To authorize the Chief Financial Officer to make any budget amendments, operating transfers, or other actions necessary to enable the transfer of said funds to Invest Atlanta and for other purposes.
Dr. Clementich.
Good afternoon, Council. So first, I'd like to, on behalf of Invest Atlanta, I'm Dr. Eloisa Clementich, and I'm excited to be here today to discuss the item before you. This council has taken some real action to really help us change the trajectory of fresh food access in the city. It started with the EOF grocery, and as a result of that tool, we were able to incentivize both Nourish and Bloom that will have 2 sites in the city of Atlanta, and we've been able to incentivize Gooder to also put a permanent location at the iVillage. So our goal is we are trying to get to 85% of the city should have access to fresh food and vegetables. We are currently about 75, 76%. The only way we're going to be able to do this is to find alternative ways to really attract to some of our, as we mentioned, low access and low income and low access neighborhoods, is to provide incentives like this. And so what will be before you is to really address the pipeline that we have right now is excited about coming into the city, but they're not investing in these specific areas. So the idea is to work with some of our local community grocers to really find innovative ways to be able to address the food, access to food, fresh food in these parts of the community. We've already started to take action to this effort. First, we've taken action, as Councilmember knows, to enter into a lease that we are going to then issue an RFP and release that out to another operator, a local community operator, to be able to really provide this fresh food and access. So I just want to say I'm very excited about doing things differently, being more proactive, and really looking forward to working with you to really address this issue in our city.
All right, thank you. And I'll open up for my colleagues, starting off with Councilmember Westmoreland.
I'd like to make a motion to amend to add my name and anybody else's who wants to join.
So we have a motion to amend to add a few names.
Raise your hand and draw your name.
I got it.
There was a motion. Who seconded? Okay. Motion from Westmoreland, second.
Thank you so
The
much.
vote is open.
So we'll vote on the amendment, then I'll go to Councilmember.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas and 0 nays. The paper has been amended.
Thank you. Councilmember Boone.
Yes, just quickly, just wanting to see if we could put a large banner on ML King Jr. Drive. It was one there saying the iVillage and the Gooder Market open, and also one on Burton Road. That will be great so that folks will not drive all around Martin Luther King looking for it because it's in the H.E. Holmes station. Again, thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you, Councilmember.
Councilmember Bakhtiari.
One incredible initiative, so absolutely has my support. I would love to talk to you, though, Dr. K, about the Sweet Auburn neighborhood in particular is of great concern, given that we have 2 senior towers and an additional nursing home in this location with Littleton. The only access they have is a bodega that consistently marks up its prices because they know they have no competition. And they routinely get banned from this location if they become disorderly. So it leaves a lot of seniors there without any access to food. So if we could, and we also have a lot of density coming online. So any chance to look at that location would be greatly appreciated.
Will do. Myself and Evan and Lori will reach out.
Good to see y'all. Thank you, guys.
And I'll just remind my colleagues that Dr. Clementish is here, but for legislative items and not for the quarterly report, which she submitted to all us written today. So it's just your
Aware.
opportunity to ask questions. Thank you. Councilman Norwood.
Doctor, there's one little mark way up in District 8 for housing, way up near Standing Peachtree Creek, and I just didn't know what that was in your
I don't remember off memory, but let me get back to you, Councilman.
Okay, thank you.
So we got a motion to approve as amended by Councilmember Dozier, second by Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 27, we're in section K, resolutions. Item number 27, 24R 3625, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari to amend resolution 23R 4170 adopted by the City Council on November 6, 2023 and approved by operation of law on November 15, 2023, authorizing the contribution of a total amount not to exceed $40,000.00 to the Historic Oakland Foundation to support the Oakland Cemetery Capital Improvement Project, to correct the funding account numbers for District 5, for the District 5 contribution and other purposes.
Got a motion to approve by Councilmember Bakhtiari, second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. And while you vote, I'll remind you that I should have said that item number 25, 240, 1278 is a dual referred item. It's going to go to the FEC next.
Thank you.
The vote is closed, and it's 6 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 28 is a resolution by council members Liliana Bakhtiari, Matt Westmoreland, Jason H. Winston, Amir Faroki, Byron D. Amos, Jason Dozier, Alex Wan, Howard Shook, Dustin Hillis, Andrea L. Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, and Antonio Lewis requesting the City of Atlanta to explore expanding employee health benefits to include alternative therapies for mental health services and for other purposes.
Thank you. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Yes, thank you. This was this actually came about out of conversations with several of our first responders that we're dealing with higher suicide rates now and other levels of depression given what the level of what they are exposed to, and so wanting to see what we can add for coverage to assist our employees and best set them up for success. So I motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Bakhtiari, second by Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. It's 6 yeas and 0 nays. And that should conclude the legislative items for today.
We have one walk-in paper.
There is a walk-in. One moment, I'm going to distribute a different version to each of you.
Thank you.
This paper has Elms ID 35454, a resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee to correct Resolution Number 24R3177, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on February 19, 2024, and approved by the Mayor on February 22, 2024, authorizing the city to enter into subrecipient agreements to provide FEMA grants to the Hispanic Alliance, Inner City Muslim Action Network, Imam Atlanta, and Migrant Equity Southeast in order to correct the expiration date included therein and for other purposes.
Thank you. And colleagues, this was just very minor, just to correct the date that was on a resolution that previously passed. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Dozier. If you can please open the vote.
One moment. Okay. That's right. All right, now the vote is open. And the vote is closed. It's 6 yeas and 0 nays. And that should complete the legislative items.
All right. And colleagues, so we decided to take presentations at the end of the meeting today, because of the time change that we had. So you have 2 written reports today, one from the Atlanta Housing Commissions. This is their annual report. It's also available on the CDHS website, as well as Invest Atlanta. Dr. Clementish was here, but most of us heard from her in the budget hearings a couple of weeks ago, and so she'll be back for her next quarterly report. But we do have Catherine Bassel here from the Atlanta Continuum of Care to give their quarterly update.
Afternoon, Chair.
Afternoon.
Chairman and committee members, thank you so much for having me today. I'm glad to hear that I was not the reason for the delay, but I do apologize for being late today. And thank you for the opportunity to present. This is our quarterly update. As a reminder, Partners for Home is a nonprofit who is the lead agency, or in HUD terms, the collaborative applicant for the Atlanta Homeless Continuum of Care. We were stood up at the tail end of 2015 to create and execute the strategy to reduce and end homelessness. So although we are not a direct service provider, our job is to work alongside the service providers, along with all of our public and private partners, to leverage and align resources and try to do this work more impactfully to rehouse people becoming homeless as quickly as possible. Today, I'm going to share an update with you on our LIFT initiative, our bridge response work, as well as the rapid housing and the supportive housing pipeline. As a reminder, the LIFT 2.0 is building on an effective strategy that was made possible through COVID stimulus funds in the early part or mid part of 2020. As a result of that initial initiative, we were able to house 2,000 households. We met and exceeded that initial goal, and with additional stimulus dollars made possible by the city, as well as our state partners, both through the Negative Economic Impact Fund and through our partnerships at DCA, we were able to leverage additional dollars to double down on that work, which resulted in the LIFT 2.0 initiative. Our goal there is to stably house 1,500 households, prioritizing unsheltered and chronically homeless individuals. The plan was to hit that goal by the end of this year. However, I'm pleased to share that we are actually 94% of our way towards the goal, and we'll hit the 1,500 and exceed it before the end of the summer. So at this point, we've housed 1,414 households as a result of this work. And just a reminder, the majority of this work is made possible through this infusion of stimulus dollars. It has really helped our system scale housing placements and really systematize the way in which we rehouse people experiencing homelessness. And really, namely, that means we meet with individuals experiencing homelessness on a one-on-one basis. We identify the right type of housing intervention for them. We work within the market throughout the metro Atlanta area to secure landlords who will partner with our vouchers and subsidies in order to get that person rehoused and then provide the supportive services to those individuals in housing to help them stabilize and stay in housing and not return to homelessness. My slides have gotten a mind of their own, and they are going off. I don't know how to stop that. Let's see. Oops. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. And so as a part of this work came the Bridge Housing Initiative, and this was actually a charge issued by Mayor Dickens in response to the bridge fire, the unfortunate event that shut down the Cheshire Bridge back before Christmas time. As a result of this work and some investments from the council as well as the mayor through an executive order, we have launched a wide-scale initiative to really target unsheltered encampments that are under bridge locations specifically. The purpose for this work is really to prioritize unsheltered homelessness, which was already a priority of ours, but also acknowledging that we have to secure our infrastructure across our city and make sure that we don't have another catastrophe like the one that we had this past year and then prior to that as well. And so I shared this slide, which is showing up a little funny on the screen, but hopefully you can see a better picture of it in front of you, because I just want to share sort of the magnitude of the work. The effort that goes into going to decommission one encampment, whether it's at a bridge or elsewhere, is quite large, and it involves a number of partners. We actually meet weekly with all of the partners you see on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And more often, we have folks that are actually in the street right now with all of our partners at sites that we've identified as priority locations. We go and walk the locations together with our outreach teams, with DPW, Department of Public Works, with Atlanta Police Department, with the Georgia Department of Transportation, with the Atlanta Department of Transportation, with members of the mayor's office, and our outreach teams. So we walk those locations in advance. We make sure that we are all very familiar with the geography of the location, with all of the impacting factors that might impede a safe and successful closure. Familiarizing ourselves, of course, with how many people are there, the needs of the people, and that outreach and assessment goes on for several weeks leading up to the decommissioning of an encampment. And the time frame of that process varies by location, by the safety of the location, by the needs of the location, and any other factors that might be impacting maybe how fast we have to move or how much time we might have to engage the area. And then leading up to that, our outreach teams are, as I said, assessing individuals, identifying what types of housing solutions might be appropriate for them, linking them to shelter, which we have stood up additional shelter capacity that the Gateway Center is operating on our behalf. And individuals at these locations are being prioritized for that shelter option. I think one thing that's also important to note is that individuals are not forced into shelter. It is their option. If they choose not to go to shelter, they can continue to work with a housing navigator to move towards housing. So all of that work is happening in the meantime, leading up to the formal day of closure. On the day of closure, all parties reconvene where individuals, again, are offered shelter, or if they choose not to go to shelter, are asked to relocate somewhere else while they work on housing. Some people are moving to housing even before a closure occurs, and that is not unlikely or rare to happen. And then on the day of cleaning occurs, and then we work with our partners, depending on who owns the site, on mitigation to ensure that re-encampment does not occur. As far as an overview today, this was as of Friday, 85 individuals from this specific initiative have moved into housing. We have 61 applications that are actually pending right now with apartment complexes, and we would expect those move-ins to occur over the next 1 to 2 weeks. So we'll be almost at 150 move-ins for this initiative. We've got units that are coming online every single day in this process. And so right now we've got a handful that are pending, and Open Doors is on contract to continue to acquire more units as we speak. To date, we are in process with 19 bridge locations, some of which have been formally closed and some of which are still a work in progress. 226 people have been enrolled and engaged from across these locations, and we have 93 people that are currently in shelter right now. And then this is just another graphic that kind of shows you our progress towards housing. The goal of 307 came from an estimated number of initial bridge locations we had identified as priorities. I would say today that that number is constantly changing. This has been a very dynamic process and has been very fluid, where we are continuously adding locations. Locations change on their own sometimes in the midst of the work. And so this is not a stagnant number, but the estimated number initially was 307. So that's the housing number we are working towards right now. But that bridge number will likely change. And when I come next quarter, may have increased over the course of this engagement. These are just some pictures that kind of show you some of the dramatic change that has occurred at some of these locations, the Metropolitan Bridge at Northside and I-20, the Dobbs location on both sides of the Housing Authority, if you're familiar with that area, and then under the underpass on John Wesley Dobbs, and then Bell Street, 7585 at Ralph David Abernathy. These are just a handful of the locations. And then another picture of Northside Drive. And then just a quick update on the pipeline. We have shared a tremendous about this to date, but as a reminder, this is $22 million invested to build what is now over 600 units in the pipeline in partnership with the Housing Authority, who's committed project-based vouchers, and our county, who's actually committed to paying for the supportive services for 30 years for all the individuals that move in through these units. This is a graphic of the number of units that are online now through the pipeline. We're at 193. And as you can see, we've got some good diversity in terms of geography, in terms of where these locations are. We've got a handful of units that are on the Beltline or in very close proximity to the Beltline, which is something we are also really excited about. The pink addition there on the map is another 417 units that are somewhere on the way, in the process of being delivered. So either under construction, getting very close to closing, or some point in the process of delivery. And then the blue that we've added, this is just giving you a picture of the excitement and interest in the product that we developed. So we've got over 100 units from developers that have actually knocked on our door. I got another email from a developer this morning saying, hey, we've got another deal in mind and we want to partner with you. Do you have any more product available? And so I think this is just an incredible example, again, of a proof point where when we create a product that is accessible to developers, they will include people experiencing homelessness in their developments. And they will sign up to do this if we make it easy enough for them to access the product in a way that is very easy and accessible. So by combining the capital, the vouchers, and the services all in one place, we have deals that, one, have exhausted all of our product, when in the beginning we had developers and people saying, no one's gonna do this. And now we have developers that are still knocking on the door saying, when are we going to get more product so we can continue to do more of this? So that is something that we are working on actively with the city in partnership with the mayor's office to identify sustainable resources for us to continue that incredible pipeline where we can continue to see supportive housing units embedded in mixed income affordable all across our city. And then lastly, as you all are aware, the Rapid Housing Initiative was launched last year as a charge by the mayor to say, the pipeline is great, but construction is taking way too long. We simply cannot wait, and we have to do more to get our unhoused neighbors into housing as quickly as possible. Out of that was birthed the Rapid Housing Initiative, which is looking at any and all mechanisms to bring housing online as fast as we can, whether that's using publicly owned land, alternative housing products, or really just even going out and acquiring multifamily developments, hotel, motel conversions. We are looking at all potential possibilities for this right now. And the first delivery was the Melody, which I think everybody is aware of at this point. Things are going very well there. We have 39 units that are full, and the 40th is with a resident assistant, so somebody that has come out of homelessness, been stable for some time, and lives on site for free rent to provide some additional support on site to the residents there. Our next phase of this work is the Waterworks Reservoir site, and then 405 Cooper Street is still very much a work in progress, and still very much in communication with the neighborhood to get input from the neighbors and the community on what that vision could and will be. A little bit more detail on Waterworks. This is a 1.2 acre site. We are envisioning 100 units to be on this property, and really still TBD as to the mix of the units, whether this would be 100% supportive housing or whether there would be mixed income units on the property as well. And it is just off of North Side Drive on what we're now calling the Upper West Side, and by 17th Street. This is another sort of conceptual site plan. Again, this is all very conceptual still at this point, but just wanted to kind of give you a picture of some of the vision of what we're considering for this site. And if it were to be 100 units, it would look potentially like a 3-story walk-up building in 3 different buildings with community services on the main floor of that second building. So that actually concludes my update, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. So building a little queue here of council members, we'll start with Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Catherine. Always great to see you, and we're going to get some good projects moving forward, and I appreciate y'all and the administration working together with the community, particularly in Mechanicsville, to try to make that 405 Cooper site the best that we can make it for the Mechanicsville community. Just a quick question about the bridge clean and I forgot the full terminology for the project or the initiative, but I'm very interested in the closure maintenance piece. I know, at least in my time with the COC Governing Council and when I was Councilmember Winston's predecessor as chair of the committee, I know we talked a lot about the fact that, we close the encampment and give it enough time, the encampment will reappear. What are we doing differently to ensure that the encampments that have been near bridges remain closed? And are there some lessons learned from this experience that can be applied to some of the non-bridge encampment enclosures that we've been continuing with for some time? You get folks housed, and then a new one pops up 3 months later. Watch, rinse, repeat. And I know we did a funding push to support this bridge closure initiative. What we need to do, another sort of funding push to support ongoing operations to the similar effect to get us to where we need to go.
Yeah, that's a great question. You certainly have highlighted one of our biggest pain points, to be honest. We are doing a few things. We've been working very closely with the city, the Atlanta Department of Transportation in particular, along with the mayor's office. A few new things that they are supporting this effort with are, one, lighting and cameras in locations that are owned by the city. And we are continuing with making sure that signage is in all of these locations. Those are 2 things that we haven't really done before, and I think give us additional vantage view of the site on an ongoing basis, rather than having to have people go out there on a regular basis, kind of sucking up time and energy from our staff and outreach teams to have to constantly go and monitor locations. In addition, we have asked, and we've learned from other communities. So we met with a team from Dallas, actually, a couple months ago. One of the tools that they implement is they have an enforcement team. So with law enforcement, they have a team that's assigned to locations they've closed. They go through on a weekly basis to all those locations, and they report back to the outreach team, to their Partners for Home equivalent, which locations have had re-encampment. That enables them to have an outreach team go back quickly before things grow out of control. And so that is another tool that we have implemented in partnership with APD. So they are using teams from the zones to go to locations that we are working in to identify re-encampment. They will encourage people to move on. If they don't, we will have an outreach team go out to try to engage that individual. And to get them to move on or to engage with us and go to shelter. The other thing that we have done is to really try to get to know better the people that are coming back. Who are they? Are they new? Are they brand new? Why are they coming here? Or were they there previously? And are they people that in engagement and outreach have missed previously? And now this is an opportunity to get them enrolled and get them back into potential for services. So those are some of the new things that we've instituted. We are still working with GDOT to consider employing things like fences. We have also heard from other partners like Dallas who have used higher grade fencing that's not easy to cut. And we are still in conversations with them to consider deploying some other types of tools to prevent re-encampment. In some of our more challenging locations, they have indicated that they are evaluating some other options. What we've seen in other cities is activation of the location, whether it's like a pathway or a park, a skate park, all kinds of tools that have been used to activate the area in a new way to prevent re-encampment. So we've been pushing GDOT to consider those kinds of alternatives, and they have indicated they have some things that they are working on, but have not disclosed yet what they are. And then it also depends on the location. We have some encampments that are adjoined with CSX property, and so we are having to negotiate and work with partners who own other property that we do not, to try to work with them to put into place some other mitigation measures.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And one thing that, as y'all are thinking about the surveillance aspect of that and installing cameras and looking at those sorts of solutions, one of the things that our office has been really interested in is an initiative that the Department of Public Works has been doing. They have pilot mobile cameras that they've deployed across the city to help mitigate dumping. And part of that camera program includes motion-activated automated message that's played. So if it detects movement, then it's like, warning, you're being watched, yada, 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 to try to discourage someone from dumping in that situation. But I imagine that sort of implementation could potentially assist with preventing re-encampment in some of these places where we might not have the operational capacity or staff capacity to continuously monitor at all times. And then separately, I do know there are private companies out there that provide third-party monitoring. Mainly it's tailored for private homes, but there might be an opportunity to scale that up so that you can reduce some of the operational costs associated with having a staff member constantly go to all these locations all the time, and potentially have still someone monitoring a camera so that they can also then communicate with the person and then dial 911 if something seems like they're not relocating and that sort of thing. So. And I bring those up because I know, at least in the Mechanicsville conversation that we've been having, one of the conversations I've had with Mr. Humphreys with the mayor's office has been, well, with the existing encampment, I can't remember the address, but across the street from Rosa Birney Park. It's a Richardson Street address, even though it's not on Richardson Street. But, once that encampment is cleared, how do we prevent re-encampment going forward? We've talked about fencing, we've talked about some of these other solutions. I know, at least with some of our places across the city where folks have taken over public spaces like gazebos and things like that, the department has looked at lighting and that sort of thing to make it, not uncomfortable is not the right word, but the things that the community wants to see in terms of safety has helped with making it less hospitable for a long-term encampment. And so just as long as we're continuing to come up with ideas and ideate and just think about all these sorts of things that are going to prevent that from happening again, I'm just thinking from a long-term cost standpoint and the operational toll it's taking on city staff, it's taking on your staff, the more we can do to keep from having to spend all this money to reinvent the wheel every 6 months or so, I think the better we'll be off as a city long-term.
Yeah, no, I appreciate those ideas. Those are great. Thank you for that. And 100% I agree. We are actively working on Cooper Street as well. We actually have a consulting team from Houston in with us this week, and Cooper Street is one of our prioritized encampments just due to all of the challenges. Again, I think geographically, there are different encampments that are impacted in different ways. And Cooper Street is very much like that. It's hidden, it's secluded, it's attracting, a lot of challenging activity for many different reasons. And so it's become particularly challenging. It's what we call a hotspot because there's lots of other activity going on there as well. So it really requires a creative approach for us to address that, and also in a very humane way. We've also housed 63 people from Cooper Street. And so it's created a little bit of a magnet effect where people are saying, oh, go to Cooper Street and get a house from there, right? So there's lots of different things happening there. And to your point, though, it becomes very complicated depending on the location. So we are looking at those multiple factors and really encouraging our partners to say, hey, we have to think about this location differently. Like Pryor Street is another example. Of course, that area across the interstate, the connector, as well as I-20 that we are all very familiar with, where we have closed that before, housed over 100 people from there, due to its proximity to Gateway and other resources and services, it also becomes a magnet. The team from Houston has said, we have another location just like that in Dallas that's surrounded by 3 shelters. And so we're trying some different things, and we're trying to learn from them actually this week on that as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari.
Hey, Catherine. Always good to see you. So you have a lot of free time, huh? How you're doing this while also continuing to raise a child is beyond me. So one, thank you. This is extraordinary. And I was going to ask, so I'm guessing also that these numbers also don't include some of our partner sites, like Mercy Care is not on here, Georgia Works, which is a good thing because they're doing their additional housing for their programs.
Well, yes and no. Yes, so it does not include Georgia Works. Mercy Care is a partner on the bridge work.
Okay.
So they actually have 4 to 5 full-time employees that are funded through our state behavioral health dollars for street outreach. So they have been sort of assumed into this project for this, but they have other projects that are not included in that number.
Gotcha. I was wondering because of the new housing they're building on in Sweet Auburn.
Oh, yes. Well, we do have units in that project, the Macaulay Park project. So that is in the pipeline slide, or should be.
I should have guessed that it was called Macaulay Park.
Yes.
I don't know why I didn't think of that name. So that's fantastic. And I was also just, my questions, like Councilmember Dozier did a fantastic job with his questions and points, so he took a lot of them. Mine just will continue to be, is there anything that, with what you were talking about with people coming back, are y'all finding a lot of people? I mean, you and I have done rides to certain areas, and we'll find people that you have housed like 2 weeks prior back at the same location because it's what they know. Do we know if we have people abandoning those spots and then returning to the streets, and then why?
It's a little bit of everything. I mean, at the Dobbs location, we had a new man show up just since we closed in the last few weeks. He's actually new to our system, Spanish speaking, which is relatively rare as well in our system, and first-time homeless. So it varies by location, and I think people are certainly drawn to encampments that have more covering, right? Like bridges where they're going to be able to be secure from the elements. We do have a high inflow rate. We have, anywhere from 300 to 400 people that are coming into our system every single month.
Yeah.
About 65% of whom are first-time homeless. So we define that by somebody who hasn't been in our system for 2 years.
Got it.
So, anywhere from 150 to 200 first-time homeless per month coming into our system. And many people are going straight to the street. They're not coming to shelter for any number of reasons. And as you're very familiar with, many of our shelters are high barrier, challenging to access, despite the fact that utilization is low. And so there's lots of variables at play in all of this, but it varies.
Yes, and I mean, this has been, the resources being made available and everything else obviously has taken a massive uptick, which is fantastic. And what you're announcing about the developers is something I've also found, because now I have my neighborhood boards actually trying to identify open land for the next iteration of the Melody. So that is quite the change culturally too, and the education component of that. So I want to thank y'all for leading on that. And I also wanted to ask us something that actually came up during the Interfaith Breakfast, and I wanted to ask you about. It was so fascinating to hear so many other counties giving us, like, they were cheering it later on because we've taken those first steps, right? And they're like, well, it sounds like we should send some people over to you guys. And so it seems that there's a lot of counties that, rather than taking on this workload themselves and following in the steps of what Atlanta is doing and what y'all are doing to prop up these systems and to make homelessness short and non-reoccurring, are we seeing that now as we're getting as we're getting more pressed for what we have done, and as more projects and more housing isn't coming online, are you finding that other counties are trying to, and other municipalities, rather than doing this work themselves, are also trying to send some of their folks here?
I mean, I have not seen an infusion of that or heard of anything. I do think the reality is, if you look at our surrounding cities and counties, there are very few emergency resources for homelessness in any of them. There's one large shelter in Cobb County. There's a small one in Clayton. DeKalb has very few, if any, shelter resources. Gwinnett just opened, I think, one of its first emergency shelters for families. And so there are very few and far between. And so I think the reality is, when people are becoming homeless in the metro, they are coming to Atlanta, and we are serving them. And I think the bigger challenge is that, because we are a City of Atlanta continuum of care only, we get a smaller fraction of the federal pie from a continuum of care funding standpoint. And comparatively, when we look at other cities around the country in terms of what they are getting from HUD. And so, truth be told, we're operating with one hand tied behind our back. And so, I think I might have missed Councilmember's last question there in terms of what additional resources might be necessary. And, I think we really have to think critically about how we invest in this issue. But I do think it's important for our partner cities and neighboring counties to step up and invest more as well.
Thank you for that. And I don't say any of that to say that their people should not be helped because they're coming from other places. Of course, we're always going to.
It's happening regardless.
Correct. And I think that one of the council's roles here can be, with our platforms, continuing to name and call upon our partner cities and our colleagues in other municipalities and counties to also help fund this work there. Or, they're welcome to give to the Continuum of Care Agency in Atlanta so we could do more of this work. But to your point, I wanted to highlight how extraordinary the work is that that COC is doing, that you are doing, that our partners are doing, and noting that we've taken the first steps. Atlanta, we have an administration that has put resources behind supportive housing that has never been there prior, especially, and calling on Fulton County, DeKalb County, Gwinnett, Cobb, all these different places to also do the same. And so I just wanted to take that moment. Of course, I know that we will never turn anyone away who needs help, but just wanted to name that I think the council we should probably be more outspoken on calling on our partners to do the same work. So I'm very happy about these numbers, as always, and very grateful. And thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilmember Boone.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for your hard work over the years. Catherine, just a question regarding your intake process. Just wanting to make sure that the mentally ill, folks that are suffering with mentally ill, are not placed in the same pot with those that need help with drug and alcohol addiction, and that those that are mentally ill, those that are drug addicted, are not placed in the same pot with those that may have gone through divorce or unemployed. How do you all separate and make sure that folks are getting the resources that they need?
Yeah.
Because that has always, even when you and I ran the shelters, when everyone is put in the same pot, a lot of times you don't get the results that are needed. So just wanting to see how is your process as far as making sure that people are getting the results that they really, really need. As I drive around the city and look at the underground and look at up by City Hall and now over by the West End area, I look at, seems like the same people. And I know that you have those that do not want to be housed, that have mental issues. How can we help you just making sure that those that need those resources, and we're just not housing them, but they are really getting the support that they need, and we're really putting a pin in it, and we're not just putting a roof over their heads?
Yes, no, thank you for those questions. I think to your first question, We do try to be very individualized in terms of meeting individuals where they are and trying to identify and parse out what their unique needs are. So if someone has a mental health issue, getting them assessed and making sure that services are tailored for them and their mental health issue. And then same thing if somebody has a drug addiction or a chronic medical condition, or all three of those things may be combined, which can be the case as well. If your question is about if we are placing them in shelter together or placing them in housing together, so from a housing standpoint, most of the resources that we fund are permanent housing solutions. And as I said, those are very individualized. So somebody with a mental illness could be moving into an apartment complex where another person lives with an addiction or other challenges. So people could be co-located in that way, but they are supposed to be getting individualized services that are tailored to them. So that's really, from our vantage point, sort of the linchpin is making sure that we're not grouping everybody together and saying, you all get this same sort of, bucket of resources, but rather we meet with every individual person and say, well, you need to meet with a psychiatrist, and you need trauma therapy, and you need addiction counseling, and you need, employment training, and some may need all of those things. And so that's the goal in the work that our providers are doing when we meet with, when we fund housing providers to do this work. As far as what we need to do more of and specific to the mental health issue, I think you're 100% right on. We are seeing a much higher acuity of mental health issues among the people that are coming into our system. And I don't think there's any question about that. And I do think our providers are struggling from a capacity standpoint to be able to serve individuals with higher needs. One thing that we are really excited about is the new crisis center that Fulton County is opening. And actually, we're working with them. I just got an email from the director, Latrina Foster, to talk about how we prioritize individuals that may come through the crisis center who have severe mental illness, who've been chronically homeless, so on the street for a long time. How do we prioritize them once they are in the crisis center getting stabilized to get into housing with the right supports wrapped around them? We are also working with the State Department of Behavioral Health and have been actively advocating for more resources for dedicated behavioral health services in Atlanta. I don't know how familiar you are with this, but City of Atlanta, Fulton County is the only county in the state of Georgia that does not have a dedicated community service board. That is the state's indigent mental health delivery care system, and we do not have one. So there definitely are significant challenges that we face in terms of accessing behavioral health care for the people that are coming into our system. And that was identified as one of the qualitative factors driving people into homelessness, and also a barrier for people exiting homelessness is inability to access behavioral health care. So I think as far as what can be done, advocating with the State Department of Behavioral Health, advocating with the legislature to fund more resources. We asked this past legislative session for dedicated ACT teams, which is an assertive community treatment team. So those are ways I think that the council can advocate for more resources to be deployed locally, as well as with the county, who is also chartered for Health and Human Services.
So the Melody, for example, how long do those individuals get to stay in the Melody, and when do they transfer out and then we move new people in? How does that go?
So the Melody is considered permanent supportive housing. Individuals that live there sign a 12-month lease, and they can renew for an additional 12 months. They can also move on to other permanent housing if they choose, and that's something we will work with individuals to do, but they can stay there and use that as their residence.
Thank you for your good work. A lot of hard work, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one on to Council President Shipman, then we'll come back to Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Catherine, thanks for all your good work. Just a few quick questions running through the slides. On the 94% towards the goal, we've been able to reach that through greater COC placements than expected, and some of the others haven't come across as quickly. Could you just talk to how the COC placements have been able to get us towards that goal?
Yeah, the COC placements and some of the others, like the VASH vouchers or the Georgia Housing Voucher, the Georgia Housing Voucher specifically is the state behavioral health voucher. They have just told us that they are about to exhaust all of that resource. And so that has slowed down the number of referrals we can make. Same thing with VASH. We rely on, for COC placements as well as VASH and some of our other vouchers, we are solely relying on attrition of the unit to be able to move the next person into housing. So in the COC's case, attrition moved faster than we had projected it would. And that's really the main reason for that. So somebody moves out of a unit that's currently funded by HUD COC subsidy. Somebody might pass away. But those are the two primary reasons that a unit becomes free. Somebody leaves, moves out, exits generally to another positive destination, and then we're able to backfill that unit with a new person.
Got it. And then sort of staying in the same place, the PSH pipeline is growing quite steadily and is well above the goal that's on this page. Do you, so two questions. One, is the pipeline sort of larger because we know there'll be some attrition in the pipeline as deals move towards fruition, or are we actually hopeful that we're going to exceed our PSH goal and have a lot more housing on the long term?
Yeah, good question. We know we will exceed the goal. The reason for that was because we did have finite capital and finite vouchers. Some of the deals didn't take all the capital that we were offering, so that enabled us to fund more units. Some of the deals did not take the project-based vouchers. They used a different type of voucher. For example, Centra Villa was 66 units dedicated to veterans. And so Community Solutions, the developer, wanted to use VASH vouchers, which is the dedicated voucher for veterans, and chose not to take the project-based vouchers. So that gave us another 66 project-based vouchers to apply to another deal. So that's how we exceeded the 550. And now we are working to extend that. We have some funds allocated in the Housing Opportunity Bond for supportive housing. The Go ATL Fund had long said we're going to commit 10 to 15% to supportive housing, but we also have to fund the Rapid Housing Initiative. So we're trying not to cannibalize ourselves at this point. We are looking to identify additional revenue and additional philanthropic support for both endeavors so that we can sustain the work.
And that actually leads into the next question. As we look at those two rapid rehousing, especially the waterworks, is that price per unit going to be markedly different than the $40,000 per unit that was referenced elsewhere in the presentation? I know it's still in design, but I'm just sort of trying to get a rough estimate of what we can expect as we move through the rapid rehousing.
Yeah, so thank you for that clarification. The $40,000 per unit was just for the supportive housing pipeline that was funded through the homeless bond. The rapid housing is a separate budget and separately funded and is estimated to be at a price point of about $125,000 all in per unit.
All in being what?
Site development, acquisition, construction, rehab, everything.
Got it.
And that was where we landed with the Melody. But the $40,000 on the pipeline, the $40,000. So to be clear, those units generally cost more than that.
Right.
The $40,000 is primarily gap financing in those deals.
Right. No, that's very helpful. The engagement report that you listed had the three categories: folks that refuse shelter, folks that are in shelter, and folks who have exited shelter into confirmed homelessness. The total in shelter to the other two is about 80-20. About 80% are in shelter, 20% are either refused or exited. I'm just curious, is that a pretty consistent ratio that you see so far in this program when we're trying to engage folks that are coming out of bridge encampments, or do you expect that number as we go forward to get harder? I'm just curious, how you sort of see the evolution of the program a little bit.
In general, I think We have had a lower uptick on acceptance of shelter than we do on hoteling. And so previously, we were operating hoteling as our non-congregate shelter. Most folks, we usually have like a 95% acceptance rate or hit rate, if you will, on hoteling. We still lose people. People leave. They don't want to abide by even the low barrier rules that we have. For whatever reason, they leave and don't come back, or they are asked to leave if they continue to violate rules. And that continues to be the case at this shelter. This is a congregate shelter, and so not everybody is interested in that. But I think we have been pleasantly surprised that a lot of people have been interested in and willing to go.
I think it's a pretty strong number,
Yeah.
80% of that. It's
Yeah.
quite impressive. Do you think the rapid rehousing model will be at or above that level as far as acceptance? If we had more of those units coming online?
Yes, 100%. I mean, I think, what we find is some people might not be interested in shelter options or other resources and services that we're offering, but 9 times out of 10, people are interested in housing. And so again, even if we don't offer, even if they're not interested in shelter as an interim step, we can still continue to work with them towards housing. And that's what we find. Most individuals, once they see that it's real, are interested and willing to go to housing.
Last question. Grants Pass case is in front of the Supreme Court. We're awaiting a decision on that. Who knows what the Supreme Court is going to decide. But if they were to rule in favor of the city, would it change, in your opinion, the way that we're going about some of these programs at all? Or do you think that we basically would sort of continue down the same path? It really doesn't have an impact.
I think there's always a danger that it gives us less flexibility, and also focuses us on the wrong thing, which is, always trying to strive for a shelter for person ratio, in every single instance, especially in light of the fact that we know many people are not actually interested in shelter. And we know that those kinds of laws are diverting people's attention towards investing in homeless management rather than homeless solutions. And so that's what I see as the real concern. I don't see us being impacted by it in tangible ways, hopefully, especially because our police department is so committed to the fact that homelessness is not a crime, and really has demonstrable, evidence that they just continue to partner with us and resources to try to help people rather than trying to criminalize homelessness. And they're not in that business. And so I really feel confident in our partners that this would not be a major impact to us. But it is, it's not comforting to know that, these are decisions that are in the hands of the Supreme Court, and that our country could potentially go in that direction.
And I'll just editorialize as I end, building on some of the comments from Councilor Bakhtiari. For those who don't know, the Grants Pass case basically is whether or not a city can, in essence, criminalize homelessness. And my fear is actually not Atlanta per se, but it's our surrounding jurisdictions and our state taking a certain decision at the Supreme Court and saying, oh, okay, now we can have a very harsh, very inhumane sort of policy, which would, one, be awful, and two, put more pressure on a city like Atlanta that is trying to go about it in a much more thoughtful way. And so I appreciate your comments. I just also want to say I think we have to be vigilant as a city if Grants Pass is decided in a certain way, and how others in our region and in the state may change their approach.
100%. Thank you for raising that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. And we have been joined by Councilmember Antonio Lewis, who would like to ask a question.
Hey, good afternoon, Ms. Fasel. How are you?
How are you?
I'm well. I just wanted to make sure I brought up the Cleveland Avenue is having a huge houselessness issue. And I know I've been bringing it up for the last 2 years, the same exact one across the street from our fire station. Typically, it would die down during the winter. Actually, it outlasts the winter, and it's going now, and it's picking up, so it's getting a little worse. And I know we've been over there before, but we haven't been able to help people because the same folks are still there from 2 years ago. So is there any kind of way that you can help us in our area? Because we are a little further away from downtown. I know we are left out the resources. We don't have the resources to actually handle this issue, but I need your help on Cleveland Avenue and Macon Drive all the way up to the highway.
Absolutely. We will have a team out there this week, and we will circle back and provide an update to you.
So last year, same time, we did the same thing. And I know that we were supposed to rehouse some folks and that we went out as a city, and I went out myself. We even called the news out to watch it. We told them to stay away. And that morning, there was a pullout from all of the partners who were supposed to rehouse folks. So this time I want to know, how can we actually rehouse people in our area?
I will follow up and find out what happened. I don't recall offhand the specific incident that you're speaking to. When you say it was a pullout, what do you mean?
So the morning we showed up at 10 a.m. to help take down the tents, not just take them down, rehouse folks who were in tents, and to rehouse folks who were under shelters, because we've never seen that in that area. And we know it's because one apartment complex closed and folks moved right into the tents across the street. Myself, my staff, and we had the City of Atlanta not Parks and Rec Department, it was the Parks Department out to help clear the area. But Partners for Home didn't show up, and the other organizations, the group of partners did not show up. I'll get the exact date, and before you leave, I'll give you the exact date and the group of partners who did not show up. But I really need help in that area. We've never seen the amount of houselessness that way, and I've brought it up every single year since I've been in City Council here.
Well, thank you for raising that. We'll get a team to go out this week, and I will provide written follow-up to you and the committee as well, so that we can be held accountable on it.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Well, Catherine, thank you a lot for giving this update. Most of my colleagues pretty much all asked all the burning questions that I had, and so I really just appreciate your help, your responsiveness. I know your team does a wonderful job, but you always are picking up our phone calls. I mean, even particularly mine late at night, just to help, specific cases. And so we appreciate you doing that and coming today. With that, we'll wrap up the presentation, and I think that concludes our meeting. So we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.